Russell Thurlow Vought was born on March 26, 1976, in Illinois and raised in Trumbull, Connecticut. He grew up in a working-class family with a strong conservative and evangelical Christian ethos. His father, Thurlow Bunye Vought, nicknamed Turk, was a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and electrician who emphasized frugality and discipline, often chastising coworkers for wasting materials, an influence that shaped Russell's lifelong aversion to government waste. His mother, Margaret Flowers Vought, was an elementary school teacher, contributing to a household that valued education and service. Vaught's upbringing blended Christian values with Republican principles of limited government, laying the foundation for his later political ideology. Education and early political engagement, 1994-2004. Vought attended Wheaton College, a prominent evangelical Christian institution in Illinois, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1998. His studies focused on politics, philosophy, economics, and historical theology, reflecting his intellectual curiosity and commitment to integrating faith with public policy. At Wheaton, he engaged with conservative student organizations, sparking his passion for politics and policy advocacy. After graduating, he moved to Washington, D.C., to pursue a Juris Doctor at George Washington University Law School, which he completed in 2004. This legal training equipped him with the analytical skills to navigate complex policy environments. Early career in conservative politics, 2004-2017. Vaught's career in Washington began on Capitol Hill as a legislative assistant to U.S. Senator Phil Gramm, RTX, a fiscal conservative known for his role in deregulation. This position introduced Vought to federal budgeting and policymaking, aligning with his personal commitment to fiscal responsibility. He later served as policy director for the House Republican Conference under then-Rep. Mike Pence, gaining experience in crafting GOP messaging and strategy. Vought also held roles as executive director and budget director of the Republican Study Committee, RSC, the House's largest conservative caucus, where he championed tax cuts, reduced federal spending, and limited government intervention. For 7 years, Vought was vice president of Heritage Action for America, the advocacy arm of the Heritage Foundation, a leading conservative think tank. In this role, he mobilized grassroots support for policies like deregulation and entitlement reform, earning a reputation as a tenacious and intellectually rigorous advocate. By the mid-2010s, with over 2 decades in conservative policy circles, Vought had become a respected figure among GOP insiders, known for his focus on dismantling bureaucratic overreach. First Trump administration. Deputy and Director, 2017-2021. In April 2017, President Donald Trump nominated Vought as Deputy Director of the Office of Management and Budget, the agency responsible for crafting the federal budget, overseeing spending, and coordinating executive branch policies. His Senate confirmation on February 28, 2018, was contentious, passing 50-49 with Vice President Mike Pence casting the tie-breaking vote. During hearings, Sen. Bernie Sanders questioned Vought over a 2016 blog post where he wrote that Muslims do not know God because they have rejected Jesus Christ his Son, and they stand condemned. This sparked debate over religious tests for office, with Christian groups defending Vought as upholding free exercise of religion and critics arguing it showed intolerance. The controversy highlighted Vaught's outspoken evangelical beliefs. As deputy, Vought became acting Director on January 2, 2019, after Mick Mulvaney's elevation to White House Chief of Staff. He oversaw the 35-day government shutdown, December 2018 to January 2019, the longest in U.S. history, driven by disputes over border wall funding. Vought also played a central role in the Trump-Ukraine scandal, where withheld $391 million in congressionally approved military aid to Ukraine, a decision later ruled illegal by the Government Accountability Office for violating the Impoundment Control Act. He defied a congressional subpoena during the impeachment inquiry, aligning with Trump's resistance to oversight. In March 2020, Trump nominated Vought as permanent Director. The Senate confirmed him 51-45 on July 20, 2020, and he was sworn in on July 22. As director, Vought advanced Trump's deregulatory agenda, implementing a 1-in, 4-out rule requiring agencies to eliminate 4 regulations for every new one. In September 2020, he issued a memo banning federal training on critical race theory and white privilege, calling them divisive, anti-American propaganda. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he broke with tradition by not releasing updated economic forecasts in May 2020 and managed trillions in emergency spending, which significantly increased the national debt despite his fiscal hawk reputation. Vought was a key architect of Executive Order 13,957, Schedule F, issued in October 2020, which reclassified up to 50,000 career civil servants as at-will employees, enabling easier firings to target the so-called deep state. After Trump's 2020 election loss, Vought was accused of obstructing Biden's transition by limiting staff access, though he claimed over 45 transition meetings occurred. In December 2020, Trump appointed him to the U.S. Naval Academy's Board of Visitors. President Biden removed him in September 2021, prompting a lawsuit Vought filed, dismissed in July 2022. Post-Trump and the Center for Renewing America, 2021-2025. After leaving office in January 2021, Vought founded the Center for Renewing America, CRA, a conservative think tank dedicated to opposing woke and weaponized bureaucracy, critical race theory, and promoting America as a nation under God. CRA, with its advocacy arm American Restoration Action, reported $1.1 million in 2021 revenue from undisclosed donors and employed Trump administration alumni like Jeffrey Clark and Ken Cuccinelli. The organization advocated reinstating Schedule F, defunding agencies like the EPA, and using the Insurrection Act for domestic enforcement. Vought expressed intentions to traumatize federal workers, viewing them as obstacles to conservative reform, and sought to shut down agency funding to curb regulatory overreach. As a self-described Christian nationalist, Vought wrote a 2021 Newsweek op-ed defending the term, arguing for Christian principles in governance while supporting limited church-state separation. In April 2021, The Washington Post gave CRA 3 Pinocchios rating for misleading claims about Biden's infrastructure plan. In 2022, Vought confirmed a federal search of Jeffrey Clark's home related to 2020 election challenges, underscoring CRA's ties to controversial figures. Vought was a leading figure in Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation's 900-page conservative blueprint for a second Trump term. He authored the chapter, advocating for consolidating executive power, firing civil servants, impounding congressional appropriations, and eliminating terms like gender equality from federal rules. In secret 2024 recordings, Vought discussed plans for anti-immigration policies, mass deportations, and defunding dissenters, aligning with America First priorities. In May 2024, he served as policy director for the Republican National Committee's Platform Committee and advised House Republicans on debt ceiling negotiations, criticizing Speaker Kevin McCarthy for compromising on spending. Second Trump administration. Return to 2025 present. On November 23, 2024, President-elect Trump renominated Vought as director, citing his success in deregulation and combating the deep state. Confirmation hearings in January 2025 before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, January 15, and Budget Committee, January 22, were highly contentious. Vought refused to commit to spending all congressionally appropriated funds, arguing the Impoundment Control Act is unconstitutional, and defended Project 2025 despite Trump's campaign distancing from it. Democrats boycotted the Budget Committee vote, 11-0 approval, and staged a 30-hour Senate filibuster, protesting his plans for spending freezes, civil service purges, and perceived threats to democratic norms. The Senate confirmed him 53-47 on February 6, 2025, along party lines. He was sworn in on February 7 by Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and concurrently became acting director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB. In office, Vought implemented a January 2025 spending freeze on federal grants and loans, affecting programs like Head Start, Medicaid, SNAP, and Meals on Wheels. The freeze, partially rescinded after lawsuits and a temporary restraining order, drew widespread criticism. At CFPB, he dropped several enforcement cases, rescinded a rule limiting data brokers' sale of sensitive information, and made inaccurate claims about PEPFAR funding abortions before supporting its exemption from cuts. Vought reinstated Schedule F to facilitate workforce reductions, targeted diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs, and proposed significant cuts to agencies like the EPA and NIH. His plan to cap indirect research costs at 15%, down from 30%, sparked backlash for potentially hindering medical research, including on cystic fibrosis, which affects his daughter. By August 29, 2025, Vought oversaw the closure of USAID after its merger into the State Department, a move aligned with Project 2025's goal of streamlining government. He has collaborated with the Department of Government Efficiency on spending reductions and discussed overhauling the Federal Reserve, criticizing its monetary policies as dysfunctional. Critics, including civil rights groups, label his radical constitutionalism an assault on checks and balances, while supporters praise his commitment to fiscal restraint and executive efficiency. Personal life. Vought is married to Mary Grace Vought, a conservative strategist who founded Vought Strategies. She has served as a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and as an aide to Mike Pence and Sen. Ron Johnson, RWI. The couple has 2 daughters, one of whom lives with cystic fibrosis, a condition that has personally influenced Vaught's engagement with health policy, though his proposed NIH cuts have drawn scrutiny for potentially impacting related research. The Vaught's reside in the Washington, D.C. area, maintaining a low public profile outside their professional roles. Controversies and public perception. Vaught's career is marked by polarizing actions and beliefs. His Christian nationalist stance, opposition to gay and transgender rights, advocacy for a nationwide medication abortion ban, and support for mass deportations have drawn accusations of promoting authoritarianism and undermining civil rights. His role in the Trump-Ukraine scandal, defiance of congressional oversight, and efforts to traumatize federal workers via Schedule F have fueled perceptions of him as a combative ideologue. Critics argue his impoundment policies and Project 2025 agenda threaten democratic norms by centralizing executive power. Supporters, however, view him as a principled reformer fighting bureaucratic overreach and advancing America First priorities. As of September 8, 2025, Vought remains a pivotal figure in the second Trump administration, shaping federal policy with a focus on deregulation, spending cuts, and conservative governance. His influence, rooted in decades of policy expertise and evangelical conviction, continues to spark debate over the balance between executive authority and democratic accountability.